Okay, everybody. Hello out there. Sorry, I'm going on a couple different platforms here between YouTube and other social media channels on Facebook and so forth. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to try to do these a little bit more consistently here during the week. It's good to see everybody. Thanks for joining me today. If you're looking um, at the weather, it's unbelievable. I actually wasn't sure if I should check the calendar or a map because it didn't feel like I was waking up in central Indiana in August because it is absolutely gorgeous outside. There's very little humidity. It's actually super duper nice outside right now. So, yes, so here we are inside doing a video cast. I don't even know anymore why I do the things I do. Anyway, for those of you who are joining me, go ahead and say hello. It's nice to see you all. But this topic today is something that I feel very, very comfortable talking about just because there's so many different people who've struggled with using virtual assistants. And I know right now there's this, it's very, not just in vogue, but it's almost necessary for people to be working from home and trying to figure out a remote working environment. And it was funny the other day, I contacted a guy. He's actually a friend of mine now. I don't want to put him out there without his permission, but he installed gutters on this house that I have that I'm trying to get. Finished up. So he was. It was just him and another guy that were doing this gutter business, and they were. I could tell when I called him that he was sounded a little hurried on the phone. I mean, he didn't know me from anybody. I was just another customer. He sounded a little hurried on the phone. He was saying, hey, can I call you back? And I got the sense that he was, if I had to picture it, that he was probably dangling from a ladder trying to install a gutter while he's answering the phone. And later on, I found out that I wasn't too far off from that description. So I got thinking about it. I said, well, and he asked me what it is that I did and talked a little bit about real estate and coaching and stuff like that. And he looked at me like, how do you manage the call volume on something like that? I'm like, well, I have a business and I have people that work there and that sort of thing. I said, but I also have a virtual assistant. And he kind of looked at me like I was asking him to explain long division, like how do you use that? I said, and it occurred to me at that point that using a virtual assistant or delegating certain tasks to a person that you don't know or haven't met can be really, really frustrating, can be really, really, unnerving almost. Hey, Christine Lucan, good to see you, a fellow author. If you have not read Christine Lucan's book, Money is Emotional, you are wrong. You need to read that book. Or Managing Money Like a Boss, right? Those are the books. So that's a plug for my good friend, Christine Lucan. But she is the financial lifeguard. But so getting back to the use of a virtual assistant. So yeah, you love your virtual assistant, and the virtual assistants. The problem is that many people don't know how to use them properly because they're terrible at delegating, number one, which is not a skill that comes naturally to most people. Hey, there's my bride, Jennifer Dolfini. Nice to see you, sweetheart. So that does not come naturally to a lot of different people in terms of delegating the, jobs that they have. Like, well, I'll just do this because it doesn't really take that much time, right? And if you say that enough times, well, now all of a sudden you've worked a 9-to-5 day and really gotten nothing important done. Whereas when you can turn over the almost inconsequential tasks to a virtual assistant to do them, it can really save up a lot of bandwidth for what you are being paid most to do. So first of all, let me make a distinction between virtual assistants. Now, again, this is just kind of my truth. This isn't the truth, the universal truth by definition. But I think that there are two types of virtual assistants. There are your task-based virtual assistants, or VAs, and there are your checklist-based VAs, okay? Now, I've had multiple virtual assistants for multiple years doing multiple different things. Now, I want you to think of your task-based VAs as kind of like someone that you would hire to do something around your house. So you hire a guy to hang gutters on your house. That's a task-based person. If I was going to hire a task-based VA, that would be somebody that maybe would build a website for me, or that maybe would, maybe set up a hotel reservation for me based on certain parameters in a certain city on a certain date, right? That's a task based. Like you call them, they do a thing, right? Or you send them an email, they take care of a thing for you, right? That's a task based VA. And they definitely serve a purpose. And I've had several task based VAs that were fantastic for me, saved a ton of time, but they weren't really self-starters. They always needed an ignition point from me to kind of go do a thing, whether that was an email, a text, a phone call, whatever. Hey, go take care of this thing for me, and whatever it was. Go do some research for me. Go find a gutter person for me, right? Which is what I had a VA do for me. Go find someone that can install gutters on a house in an area that I'm not familiar with, right? Go find a contractor for me that can go do work on a place for me, right? On a real estate project. But a VA, I would argue damn near anybody. I mean, even if you're a stay-at-home mom, who's probably one of the toughest jobs in the world, could use a VA to handle certain things that could be done. Now, task-based VAs are good, but you do have to manage them. You have to make sure that you're managing how the tasks are being done. I'll get back to that here. How you manage them is important, whether you're working with a task-based VA or a checklist-based VA. A checklist-based VA is kind of one of those things that once you set it up, it's kind of perpetual. Like they will just run and do the checklist until you tell them to stop or until they wear out, okay? A checklist-based VA is really good for many people who have businesses that are trying to run them, but they're being constrained by all the daily activity that comes up. I'll give you an example. So let's say, for argument's sake, this is the most disruptive thing to production in modern history in terms of actually being a time waster or taking away from our time is the phone. So could you imagine, just follow me here, could you imagine having a virtual assistant that, picks up the phone, answers it, hi, thanks for calling Landlord Coach, right? And they say, yeah, I'm looking I want to schedule Mark to come and do a presentation at our local RIA. Okay, fine. And then now she takes their information and at that point hangs up, okay? Now my day has not been interrupted for that 3 or 4 minutes that she was on the phone to handle that call. I was not interrupted. Now, that may not seem like much, 50 of those calls a day or 100 of those calls a day that just interrupt your day, that stop you from doing whatever it is you're doing. Like right now, I'm recording a video, doing this video. If I were to get a phone call, I'd have to send it to voicemail and then I'd have to go back and check the voicemail and everything else. But if I had my VA take care of it, and then at the end of each day, send me a summary of all the calls that have come in that are not urgent, there's not ever really a coaching emergency, rarely. I mean, most of my coaching students come to me and text me directly if they've got a real problem. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that, if it was an emergency, my VA would know to contact me right away. And if I'm getting a call from my VA or get a message from my VA that says, hey, there's an emergency that you need to handle, I could get on that right away. There are probably, all of you have emergencies in your life that need to be handled right away, right? Your virtual assistant you can predetermine what constitutes an emergency in certain things. Now, some of this is somewhat common sense, or if they just don't know how to handle certain situation, they can still reach out to you. But by default, most things are not an emergency. And if that's your life, then I feel bad for you, because most people don't live in a constant state of emergency, and most businesses definitely shouldn't. So could you imagine then that virtual assistant that picks up that phone and handles that phone call and hangs it back up? You're only paying them for that period of time. You're not paying someone $15 or $20 an hour to sit at a desk and answer a phone when the phone rings. You're only paying that virtual assistant for the time that they're spent handling that task. When the phone rings, they handle it, they hang it up, they type out a portion of an email and wait to send it until 5 o'clock at the end of the day. You're only paying, what does that cost? $3 maybe, if it's $30 an hour. And that's what people get hung up on, is like, I can't afford a virtual assistant because it costs so much, or it costs $30 an hour. Or my virtual assistant, which is another thing that I hear, a lot of virtual assistant people, or people who use virtual assistants rather, are using them out of like Pakistan or Philippines or wherever, and they're paying them like $6 an hour. Okay, that might be fine for task-based VAs where they're doing a task, and even you can put them on a, even if it's a checklist-based VA where they're doing, maybe they're doing your some sort of repetitive task that can be done over and over, and it really doesn't matter when it gets done as long as it gets done, and they can send it to you overnight while, they can be working overnight while you're sleeping, and it's ready for you in the morning. There's nothing wrong with that. But to have them handle the tasks that are interrupting you, such as answering phones, that's not, the infrastructure is not there for that to handle it. The delay's too much, and it just doesn't work well. Okay, so you need to make sure that you're getting the right type of virtual assistant company, and the right, and you're not setting them up to fail. Okay, meaning that you're not asking a virtual assistant in the Philippines to handle a phone call when you really want to be sleeping. Now, what are some other ways? In the real estate world, we use a virtual assistant overnight to answer the phone calls. So there's always a live person that our customers can talk to. But for this gutter guy, that I was mentioning earlier, could that guy easily have a virtual assistant to handle his phone calls while he's out in the field where he's making his money? He's not making money while he's talking on the phone. He's making money while he's actually doing the task that he was hired to do. When he's talking on the phone, trying to, lace up a gutter, he's not only not working as efficiently, he's also putting himself at risk. I mean, he falls off a ladder and breaks his back, he's done. He's done making money for a while, maybe permanently. So the other thing is, in terms of how to actually use a VA, and I started talking about this earlier, and I'll address this now. In a task-based VA, if you've got them where they're going to actually start doing a task, and you're saying, okay, well, I want you to research, for example, all the real estate investment associations that are in this 5-state area that are larger than 500 people. Okay, so because I want them, maybe I want to go and I want to, have them research areas that I may want to speak at. So let's say that's the task I'm going to have my task-based VA take care of. So I send my VA on this task, on this researching mission. I didn't give any parameters in terms of how long it should take. I didn't give any parameters in terms of what they should be looking for. I didn't give them really, I just kind of gave them a blank check to go and spend as much money and as much time as possible on this researching goose chase. Okay? That is absolutely the wrong way to use a VA, especially in a task-based VA, because they don't know how long this should take. They don't know, should this take 3 days or 3 hours? It's not their realm, especially if they've never done this type of research before. So a way to manage that is to do what every good manager would do. Give them a little rope to run, and then say, hey, look, do your initial research, take 30, 45 minutes, and at the end of 45 minutes, check back in with me and show me what you have. Okay. That way I can tell you if you're heading in the right direction or not, and you don't spend $300 on a task that's absolutely meaningless and there's nothing that you can do with those data. Okay. Just like, how long should it take you to build a website? Some people can build a very basic website in a day, and you might have the skill set to fill it all in with the copy and the photos and everything else, because you want to design it, you want it to look a certain way. So you really just want them to build a framework, to build a basic shell, because you don't know the back end stuff, right? But you want to do the front end stuff. So you say, hey, look, I'm just looking for this. Start working. How long do you think it would take you to build a basic website? Okay, fine. Assuming they've built one before, you really shouldn't have to check in with them. But you could maybe say, hey, after 3 or 4 hours, can you show me the soft launch of the website? Because they would generally have that. And you could see that, right? But you should know how long, they should know how long that would take, especially if it's a task they've done before. If it's not a task they've done before, you want to put those parameters in there to say, hey, check back in with me after 45 minutes or an hour, so I know, that you're heading in the right direction. That's not micromanaging. Micromanaging would be, sitting over them, hovering over them, checking in with them every 5 minutes to say, how many do you have now? How many do you have now? How much money have you spent? That's not effective. That's not what you want to do. You want to give them enough rope to run, but not so much rope that they end up hanging themselves. Okay. So virtual assistants can definitely give you a lot of your time back. You definitely just need to know how to use them, and most people don't. So one of the companies that I like to use, their former name was CC My Admin. They've recently rebranded under Bosun. I think it's Bosun. I might have that wrong, but the CC My Admin link still works, so you can go there and check that. But anyway, I love them, because the reason I love them so much is because they're actually represent a company. And I've got multiple virtual assistants that I've used in the past. I'm, working with some through not only Landlord Coach, but also through the management company that I have. But the reason why I like a company is because if you have one VA, right? Well, what happens if that VA gets sick? What if that VA quits on you? And now you're pretty much screwed. Now you have to find someone else, train them. In the meantime, now you're having to pick up all those additional tasks. When you're using a VA firm like CC My Admin, and again, you can use them or don't use them. There's plenty of other firms out there. I like them just because I have a personal relationship with them that I've built over time. They know my core they know what type of people work best with me. So if someone does need to be replaced, a lot of times they're already in front of it before that person ever needs to be removed. Or they may have already had the conversation with the manager that says, hey, look, I'm going to have to change and step out of this, this VA role because I'm doing something with my family, or I'm going to be taking a vacation for a couple weeks. They will automatically set somebody up in front of you. And a lot of times you don't even know it until they call you and say, hey, by the way, so-and-so is going to be, taking a sabbatical for the next 6 months. We've already got somebody lined up for you, and we're going to train them. We're going to show them the tasks that your current VA already is doing. So the handoff is much smoother, right? So these are the sorts of things that you really need to start to consider when you're looking at getting a virtual assistant. Now, again, you don't use them. You don't pay anything if you don't use them. So if you're still not sure, I think what definitely helps is find a task that you can hand off that's not really inconsequential. Like, don't hand them something that you wouldn't be doing anyway. There's no point in giving them a task that you wouldn't be doing yourself. But find a task that you can do that maybe a repetitive thing, even if it's somebody that's maybe going in and looking at your emails and flagging the ones that are definitely that seem to be most important. Okay. Or maybe typing out some emails and having, you review them before you actually send them out, giving them that sort of access, managing your calendar, those sorts of things. But give them small tasks just to try it out. And if the task doesn't work well to give them that task, then take it back. But there's lots of different tasks that we do. Lots of times we're spending on, waiting on hold, trying to get through to somebody when, we could easily have a virtual assistant take care of that stuff for us. Learn to take back your time. Learn to value your time. Because if you don't value your free time, if you don't value any of your time, someone else will, and they're going to place a higher value on on what they're doing than what you're doing. They're always going to default to that. So you have to place a value on your time, otherwise someone else will, and it's going to be a value that's much lower than what you really are worth. Okay, I hope that makes sense. All right, that's all I have for today. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be looking to do these specifically on Tuesdays, so I'm going to try to shoot for noon. I went a little long on a coaching session with somebody today, so it was great to do that. But thanks for everybody's support. Morning, Sarge Dolfani. Morning. Where are you, Stanley? I don't know where it's morning. It's just past morning here. So, but yes, good to see you, Stanley. Thanks for saying hello. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. Please remember to place a value on your free time, because if you don't, someone else will. Take good care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.